Welcome back. While South African opera singer, or maybe we should say opera extraordinaire, Pretty Yende, continues to rake in these honours. She's the latest recipient of the Ceremonial Badge of Honour for contribution to the arts and letters in France as well as worldwide.
Well, let's find out what this honour means to her as she joins us from San Francisco. Yes, because she is a global superstar that, she's not coming to us from here at home. A very good morning, at least South African time, Pretty, and thank you so much for joining us on the South African morning. Firstly, congratulations for getting the latest honour among the number of honours that you do have. I mean, just as our intro says, what does this mean to you?
Thank you so much. It is a good evening on my side of the sun, and I'm so happy for such an incredible and gracious invitation for this interview this morning. I'm so grateful. Words really aren't enough to express the kind of gratitude for receiving this honor from France, because firstly, of course, I'm the daughter of my father and the nation of South Africa. And of course, Italy also gave me an honor. So for France to do the same, it's something truly extraordinary, especially at such a young age in my career.
Yeah. Pretty, I want us to take back a little bit and look at it. I mean, you are a South African-born young woman who comes from Piet Retief, and many would say that coming from a small town such as Piet Retief, how did somebody become a world-renowned opera singer who's really graced stages that are most coveted, obviously, across the globe? It's such an inspiring story. I keep looking at the talent that we have in this country to say, how do we even make sure that this talent that we have gets to even experience the global platforms that you have? Can you just take us through your journey?
Well, I'm remembering the very first time I heard opera, of course, 2001. I was at home with my family, and there was this ad on TV which had this music behind. And of course, I grew up in a family that is very big on music. But that kind of music was not, I didn't know about it. So when I heard it, I went to my high school teacher at the time to ask him what it was. And then he told me that it's called opera. And at the age of 16, I asked him, is it humanly possible? Because for me, it truly sounded supernatural. I could not believe that human beings have such a gift. And as it turns out, not only was the joy of it that, was inside of me when I heard it, but also I did have talent. I did have the gift. I do have the gift. And that is the blessing in this instance for me, because it's one thing to love something and then to find out whether you can have it or not. And so it has been an incredible roller coaster of incredible experiences that I'm very grateful for. It hasn't been easy. Nothing is ever easy, but the love for it and the opportunities that have come have truly inspired me to keep on exploring this extraordinary gift that I have. And of course, I had the support of my family. And truly, if South Africa is not aware, South Africans are really doing something extraordinary on the global stage, and it would be a pity for South Africa not to catch up.
So now that, you are where you are in terms of your age, and you look back at that 16-year-old that thought that this was supernatural, do you now believe that you yourself are supernatural now that you've identified that you do have the talent? That's my first question. The second one then becomes, what do you then say to another 16-year-old who's looking at you and your success and feels like she doesn't have those pipes in her?
Firstly, I truly believe that just having life is something extraordinary. We are super beings because we are each unique, and when we have something extraordinary in us to share with the world, that is quite supernatural. When I look back at that young girl and what has happened since then, I would say to another young girl somewhere in the corner of South Africa, hey girl, hey boy, you can do it. Find out what you have inside of you and push through. Don't wait for the world to approve you. Approve yourself first, because you have the vision. We normally see our dreams first before the world can see them. So push through and make it happen.
You know, as you're speaking about how South Africans have got talent and those who've got dreams must be able to push through and make it happen, it does not happen unless you pay respect to your craft. And what we've noticed about your journey is that in all instances you've managed to respect your craft. I was reading a little bit about how, I think was it the Belvedere competition where you were the first person in history to actually win across all categories. That speaks significantly about how much effort you put in perfecting your craft. Just talk to us a little bit about what is actually involved in being able to sustain your talent.
It's very important to honor the gift. It's important to respect the gift. It's important to also be very open-minded in a sense that you are always going to be, in my case, the youngest person in the room. But with so many ideas flying around, one has to be very open, because ultimately it's truly about exploring and giving homage to the gift as to its utmost potential. And one of the things that are very important is really humility, of course, but being very focused and long-term goal orientated as well, and never giving up.
Pretty, a lot of people are going to be watching this interview. That 16-year-old we were talking about is going to be watching this interview, and they're catching you at a time where you've received an honor from Italy and now from France, and they will think that, you know, it seems like I can also do it at the age of 37. Not everybody is going to achieve what you've achieved at the age of 37, you know, and you've done so with challenges, you know, along the way. What have those challenges been, and what has it taken you to get over them? Just so that someone who thinks that it's been smooth sailing understands that they're going to get to 37 and the script might not be the same as yours.
Yeah, I think the very first one was actually an internal struggle to really believe that I had what it takes. I mean, I think even to this day, even with all the glory, with all the accolades, there's still that part in me that asks, do I really have what it takes? It sort of shifts now compared to then, into knowing now that, of course, since I have had this kind of reception, that it's no longer a question of if I have what it takes, but then how do I want to keep, sustain the kind of success that I'm having, and also as the voice is growing, as the career is growing. But the very, very first time, really, it was about asking myself if I had what it took. And then also leaving South Africa was the hardest thing. I remember when I left for Italy, of course, I had dreamt that I'm going to take over the world, I'm going to go to the world and make it happen. But the reality of it was really something very, 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 very challenging. The language was number one. I missed everything about South Africa. I almost had to be somebody else to govern the dream and to grow from the girl from Pretty Yende into a global girl in a way. And so I have to thank really my parents, because then they reminded me that I wanted to do the impossible. And doing the impossible meant really being open to the new that was happening. And I learned the language very quickly. I speak Italian fluently, and then, of course, French as well. So truly, we win first on our own before we can actually conquer the world.
You know, I love what you're saying about how much sacrifice, because I think that a lot of times we don't speak about the work that is involved in being a star. They often say that for you to be an overnight star takes years of work, so that you can have that one shot of overnight, you know. And a lot of times I think that even with young people, we don't show them what happens behind the scenes. We don't show them the sweat, the tears, the blood, the cries, we don't show them all of this, right? And even the loneliness that comes with being so global, because I can imagine there's an element of loneliness that you have to contend with being on that global platform. If we were to perhaps even look at how to sustain opera music in the South African context, how do we do so in a place where maybe we're not paying much homage to the classical. Maybe we are so focused on one dimension and one genre of music, thinking that this is the way to gain success, that we're not opening ourselves up to the possibilities of different genres serving us in ways. Because you took a classical genre, a black young woman took a classical music space, and you've taken it to a global platform. I can imagine how many young people are thinking, no, this is the only way to be successful is if I'm in Amapiano or if I'm in Kwaito, which is not necessarily true. How do we open up our minds and start honing in on even those untapped potential that we may have in the country?
I think education is very, very important. The awareness is very, very important. And I believe that the Department of Arts and Culture really has an incredible job to do to make, to open the space and to open the possibilities of giving each and every gift a chance. Because I mean, I do so many interviews globally, and I always say, if you think that it's just me, you are truly mistaken. If you were to go to my country, there are probably 1,000 Pretty Yendes there with talent, but who are not supported financially, who are not supported with education. And so I'm pleading really for the help of that child who has incredible possibilities, because the global stage has said a big yes to South Africans on the global stage. It's just South Africa that is a bit behind.
That's actually unfortunate, because you would think that with all this talent that those in power would be rushing, especially when they're seeing what is happening with you, rushing to make sure that they get more Pretty Yendes out there. But before we let you go, what are you doing now? Because I can imagine there are a couple of other honors from other countries around the world that are just waiting by the doorstep. So what are you going to be doing next? What's on your plan? What's on your itinerary that's going to get you the next accolade?
Well, I've just been to Paris. I did a very wonderful production of The Magic Flute at the Opera Bastille. And I flew in here in San Francisco yesterday. Or today, I don't know. I don't even know. to do a new production of La Traviata at the San Francisco Opera House. It's my first time in San Francisco, and so it's pretty extraordinary that even though I've just fairly started singing La Traviata, that another opera house would actually make a new production for me. So that is very, very, very exciting. And of course, I've got projects coming up in the future everywhere in the world, but also a hope that I can also come home to do some concerts as well.